That's a fucking fact.
So is that a pirate ship? Like, you got the mandalas behind you, but is that a pirate ship?
Yeah, dude, it's a pirate ship because it's a representation of that goal, that long-term path I'm working on with that show. And the show's based around a pirate ship. So a black light pirate ship that when I walk in and out of this door, I just don't forget, you know, we're at sea, we're at sail. Keep on the mission, you know?
That's so interesting. You know, I think it was Abaddon when I was doing my working with Abaddon that he kept comparing what we're doing, like each individual black magician. What we're doing is we're sailing a black ship through the fucking black ocean, and he's like, you know, don't mistake it. You got your own ship, and everybody else has their own fucking ship. Nobody else is on my ship. You know, my ship goes my way, and fucking and I ride it myself. But like everybody else has got to get their own ship. Everybody else has got to get their own motion forward, and that's what like the practice of black magic is. So that's badass.
That's a fleet, dude, and that makes like a fleet.
That's a fleet. That's right.
Yeah, because you know, like if we're all staying on the same warpath, whatever. But if you're all doing your own thing, then you spread out more all around the land, you know. And I am seeing that lightning bolt effect hitting down in reality like no other, man. Like I know the veil has been thinning, and I know incorporating all the things I've learned and seeing the illusions going around us, like that you could just bash that all away, like that whole ship at sail. Like once you find that vision, I think it's easier to take on every single day and every single thing you're going after in your life, instead of this like, oh, it's today, you know, like kind of like waking up hopeful about the day, you know, like I don't know, like it could be all right, instead of walking out that door with purpose behind it, you know, and that's huge.
Purpose and meaning, you know. That so I'm just gonna talk some shit on my daughter's boyfriend right now. he's going through some shit. He's you know, got some anxiety and depression issues he deals with. But I was thinking about it, and I was listening to him, and I'm like, you know, I think the big missing component is purpose and meaning. That this kid's he gets up and goes to work, and he's doing his thing. He's going through life, but he hasn't yet locked on to his purpose. Because, like you said, that does change everything. I'm gonna be honest. I feel like that's a big part of what pulled me out of the self-destructive, suicidal mess that I was in for most of my life was actually finding out, like, I'm not just doing black magic because I'm a weirdo and I'm trying to push against society, and I'm actually doing this because first off, because it's my authentic path, but then there's also something built in there. With it being my authentic path, I also have a purpose here. And that changes everything. That makes, like you say, waking up, getting on. If this was just a Zoom call that I was doing for, you know, a cabinet shop, I would not be enjoying it nearly as much.
Yeah.
I don't feel like it'd be living my purpose. And so I would be back in that suicidal, self-destructive place, because I think, like, human beings without a sense of purpose and meaning, our existence is useless. And we feel that on a core level. And I think that is where a lot of, I think especially in men, that's where a lot of disorder comes from, is not locking into your purpose. So.
Yeah, there's that fire that goes inside, and when you're doing your purpose, you're keeping it going. Otherwise, it does become that self-destructive, and it could be an obsession about, maybe it's a gambling thing someone does, or it's sex, and all these things to unfulfill yourself. And I do see how, like, you know, that Abrahamic faith and all that, they're generalized. The only speck of gold that they're flicking is that, like, there's more beyond certain parts of life. But then, you know, it's all the other chains and everything else. Get on the ground, hate yourself, X, Y, and Z. But I do see that without some sort of order, because I do live chaotically. And, like, recently, my biggest thing I've learned is I am so hasty. I have such a fire to, like, once I want to get something done, I go after it, and I do it hard. But I also, like, it's from 0 to 1,000. There is no, like, gradual thing, and I'm learning, like, it has to be a consistent flow and hit in that state and be in that state and be comfortable. That's huge too. Being comfortable, being where you're at. And just because you do see, like, the big goals and all that, and that's that whole balance. It's like you can see all your goal and go after it every single day, but, like, if you're not getting out what you want back from it right off the get, then like, why did you do that? What is the purpose behind why you're doing what you're doing? And it just goes right back to purpose.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And we didn't really intro this show at all, so let me just intro this real quick and say, hey, dude, this is E.A. Koetting. I'm here with LD Alchemist. I'm hoping you'll throw this on whatever channels you've got. I'll throw this on my Odyssey. Y'all can check me out at Odyssey at E.A. Koetting, and I've got my weekly show on Wednesdays I do there, and then weekly uploads of video blogs, all of that. So yeah, but let me ask you this, because you said something. You gotta have some comfort. You've got to be getting some sort of instantaneous reward to satisfy the monkey inside,
Yeah.
And so, but at the same time, on the left-hand path, there's also this struggle to not get too comfortable. So where do you think that balance is? How do you find that balance of like not getting too comfortable to the point you're complacent, but comfortable enough that you're not feeling like every day is a struggle?
So I like to do short-term and long-term goals, and then once you have those set, there's the daily workings you do with your body, some meditation, it could be Tai Chi, going to the gym, going on a run, yoga. And it's about keeping that consistent energy throughout your short-term and long-term. And it does take, to find that absolute goal you're going after. Like, I finally see my 10 years out, what I'm really wanting to do, everything when it all compiles up. It's not like I got that overnight, I had to figure out what the hell I was going to do in 8 months. And I'm not, yeah, you know what? Blacklight Alchemy, check it out, the Hawk Totem. You'll learn your 8 month, and when you see your 8 month inside of your life, you realize, is this relationship I want to be in? Is this really the job I want to be in? Do I really want to live here right now? And what's holding me here? And it like literally pulls you out of the whole perspective of, oh, what the hell? It's like, just figure it out. Lots of us worry and we're chaotic and then hoping we land on it. It's like, you're going to have to figure it out. Like, you have to sit with yourself, not just be plugged in and letting all this emotion hit you from the phone, X, Y, and Z, because our vision gets distorted. Like, that's the biggest way I can put it. It's telling you to do this and that. So if you're getting distorted and you're not having those ways to get that short-term burst, that dopamine burst, and keep it, because like that's the pat on the back for me, big time. It's like, yeah, I feel actually good. Like, plus I have this goal, I accomplished this, check mark. And so I do see that that's like the best way to keep it and keep it continual growth.
Do you journal?
I do. I do, but not as much as I should. I do with my rituals, I do. But then there's a point, and this is why I know about the hasty thing. I'm not gonna say Pokemon, but I got so many Radionics boxes, and I'm like, all right, I'm doing this working. I charge the sigil, that's open. Charging this one, keep this going. Here we go. I'm over here like inside of my spaceship, having all these tiles, doing all these things, and it's like, it's ridiculous and it's awesome. But I realize, like, having 8, 9 gateways open, truly being like understanding that energy's with you and growing with it, and then seeing all the other aspects of your life, like, it can be a lot. It can be an absolute lot. And right now is the first time, like, I know like that saga has like ended and I'm entering a new one. And like, that's the greatest thing about this path is, 3 months, 4 months of your life, a year, whatever it may be. And you get to go jump into this current and you become someone new. And I mean, that's what I love about, you doing the Voodoo, the Norse, the gatekeepers, like, you're getting immersed and you're becoming someone new. And when we, eventually there is a time where, like, our soul has learned its lesson and you can move forward with that. And that's something huge. Okay. So I've been looking, just at the research of radionics for about a year and a half, and I've knew a little bit more about it, but dude, I have been just immersed. Like, everything I've been doing probably the past 6 months, 8 months, it's a ritual that I have to have a box intertwined with. And I mean, it almost got to an unhealthy state where I was like, well, should I even do a ritual unless I have a box incorporated, and like, sometimes you don't need to necessarily do that, like just a channeling or talking or whatever. But I've seen some weather changes that are mind-blowing. Like, there's a couple stories I want to hit you with, and then I just want to open up the door to anything you have to say about radionics, and I'll tell you all the things I've been able to learn. But so one of my first big experiments with it is I had a race.
Wait, I'm just gonna. Sorry, brother. I just gotta say this up front. Weather manipulation is so fucking cool. Like when you can do like a ritual, a meditation, a radionics, you do something and then either the storm stops and the sun comes out, or the fucking storm rushes in. Either way, that does fill me with like this feeling of godhood, where it's like, oh look, the skies listen to me.
Yes, absolutely. That's what's the beauty of it. I mean, with my job doing delivery too, I don't like messing around with weather no more. I'm done with it. I'm actually like, I don't care. Christmas and want the snow, I don't care. No snow. But the first one was we had a Spartan race, and it was coming up a week later on a Saturday, and it was supposed to storm horrible throughout the whole thing, like snow, ice, water, and all that. And each day we got closer, nothing changed. And I told my buddy, what do you think? How about a meal? I'll bet you a meal that the weather, we won't get touched by one drop of rain. He said, one drop of rain? Okay. So then it's morning of, I just grab my machine. I sit there and visualize a clean blue sky. And then after I get done doing the visualization, put it down. It's still storming. It is raining as shit. It's an hour drive. So we start driving there. 30 minutes down the road, still raining. 15 minutes, it stops raining. Right when we get there, there's just no rain. And we get pulled up right to the front of the gate. And they had all the huddled leaders surrounded, talking about how they were supposed to cancel the event, get everyone home because the storm is so bad. But they were all in such shock and awe, and they looked at everyone and said, we don't know what's going on, but start running right now and go get your race done. And as everyone just started running, about an hour on the race, the skies were clearing up around us. And we got in the vehicle and drove back. And I call up my one friend to say, dude, we didn't get dropped by one single bit of rain. And he tells me, and this is only an hour away, dude, it's been pouring the whole entire time here. What are you talking about? And so when I looked at the radar, because beforehand it looked like it was going to be bad, when you looked at what presently happened, it's like, so we are right here, right in the center. The storm would come and then go around. Like it's almost an eye of a hurricane.
Oh.
It pushes that out. And so I was like, that's badass. And I started just keep doing this experiment when we were supposed to have storms and everything else. And this last Saturday, we were supposed to be having just rain the whole entire day. And it was cold, it's crap and everything else. And so I just visualized a clear sky. And I even have video, and I'm going to put together a little minute clip and put it on all my channels. Everywhere I went, the sky was blue like a circle, like in front of me, but everywhere else around it would be dark. And I'd drive 13 miles, and it'd be the same thing. Then this direction, all around town, and everywhere I went, it'd be like that. And only for about 5 minutes was there even just like a little mist of rain versus it's supposed to be raining all day. So with all these things of like radionics and radionic like weather manipulation, it is so possible. And now I'm seeing all these storms going on around us. And so if now we're figuring this out, the government's definitely had stuff figured out with HARP, everything else. And now all this other technology is coming out. It's no wonder it's getting wild out there. In all honesty, I feel like even 100 people, even shoot, 2 more people, it doesn't matter. There's even Dr. Mulder's been talking about his buddy, I forget his name, but he's been making it rain out there in California, and hasn't that been one hell of a situation?
Yeah, I might not announce that too publicly if I was that dude. There's people that would be pissed off losing their millions of dollars home sliding off.
I know, and that's the thing. I forgot his name, so everyone's got to check out.
Yeah, no, but that is there's well, let me just actually jump in. I'm writing a manuscript that you and I have talked about privately that I'd like to have you help me out with for 2024 release. That's radionic A Radionics spell book is what I'm thinking, and basically I want to get you, I want to get J.S. Garrett, I want to get Mulder. I don't know if Mulder wants to write at all, but I want to, I want to pull him in. Uncle Chuckie, I'm kind of divided about. I love Uncle Chuckie. Nothing against him. Just not sure if he wants to be in a book project or whatever. But anyways, the part that I'm writing for it, I've been working on this for the last year, is radionic technologies, manufacture, engineering, and deployment. And because I do see this. Fucking apocalypse. We're engaged in a very literal war, and the war that's happening with people shooting bullets at each other, that's not the war I'm talking about. I'm talking about shooting energy. Like you said, the government's been on this this weather manipulation, mind manipulation, mass manipulation through energies, through programming, all kinds of different shit. We are being attacked on a regular basis with our minds, our souls, our hearts, and not only are we being turned against each other, but we're being turned against our own selves. Suicide rates have never been higher. Like we actually need, I think we need weapons to fight this war, and I think that radionics is one of those weapons. So with that, just let me run through this real quick. So radionic technologies that are useful to the occultist fall into 5 categories. And so I've broken down, like, these are the 5 different types of technologies. When people say radionics, that could be, that could be something like this big ass box I got over here that's doing that shit, or it could be, a room that somebody enters into. It could be a little handheld device. There are so many different things that radionics could be, but it falls under 5 different kinds of technologies. So yeah, orgonite-driven devices. So orgonite is basically a resin that you have different inorganic materials like copper flakes, different metal flakes and shavings, and people do like pyramids and stuff out of those. So orgonite-driven devices don't need any electricity in them. They basically just they're powered by themselves, by their own existence. You got a pyramid there? Oh,
this is that orgonite right here, baby.
There we are. Yeah. So that is basically, I don't want to call it a passive device because they can be very active, but you don't need to turn it on. It's always on. And then electromagnetic devices. So that's a different thing that's actually generating an electromagnetic current. The third is frequency, pulsation, and harmonization devices. And that's frequency, pulsation, harmonization devices, quartz-driven devices. So there are a lot of devices, if you break the box open, a lot of them will have quartz crystals on each potentiometer, and then something in the center that usually is going to bind all of that together. So those are quartz-driven devices. And then pseudo-electrical devices, meaning, so this is the crazy thing that I got into with Uncle Chuckie years ago when I was first interviewing him. I asked him how much of the power of radionics is the magician and how much of it's the machine. And he said, well, to answer that, he goes, they're doing experiments. Him and his buddies are doing all these experiments, and then they realized for a few days they forgot to plug it in. And so they're like, well, wait a minute, all the experiments have still been going great, but it's not plugged in. And so Uncle Chuckie's like, well, let me fuck around with this a little bit. So he basically scooped all the innards out, so it's nothing but a box with dials. And with just a box with dials, as long as the person thinks that they're doing something, they're doing something. This is Dumbo's, the biggest Dumbo's feather ever, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. But that's not all. That's just one kind of those 5 devices. Is the kind that's going to utilize more of your own power. But once you get, like, my box over here that I was showing off is a combination of all 5 of these technologies. And I think, what you're saying, you've got several different things. I bet you've got a couple different types of technologies that you're working with, and they all work just slightly differently. Like, the way you actually input is usually the same, but the way that they output that energy is different. This
one I got over here, the Genesis 2.0, is really badass because you can put there's this extra input plate here that you plug into the machine, and you can also charge a candle by putting it on here, charge a sigil, whatever the hell you want to do. And then there's other input devices on this machine that you can, if you get a psionic helmet, you know, those things are awesome too. I feel like, I mean, I'm already bald, feel like Professor Xavier, you know, only just turned up. And you could just like have this full channel session without even like that state of mind with the evocation and like getting in that wavelength and the relaxation in that flow. It is, I mean, every time I've used that helmet, plugged it in, and then just had that sigil, it's been like hardcore visualization feeling. My spirit, like I soul travel. It's just boom, bam. Like it's a really magical thing. But what I love about it is it's got most of the machines that I have a pulsation to where, the way I see it, it's like a sonar beam that basically shoots out to bring out the reality. But this one has two. So when you work with the spirit, you can not only do your what you're wanting to manifest with them, but you can also, it has a dial to where you can then visualize you something else on your own. So it's like kind of a 2-in-1. It's working with the spirit, and then this one could be someone buys you a coffee or whatever the hell you want it to be, you know. But it's like a 2-for-1 machine, and the beams and all that, it's just, they're just so badass, man. Like I just can't get enough.
Well, there's something cool. So you're tapping the right word, which is pulse. So if you turn on a frequency and you just let that frequency go straight, its effects aren't going to be that much. You know, it's like if you hear a tone, at first it might jar you, but after a while, if the tone doesn't change, if there's no fluctuation, you'll get so used to it that you forget it's there and it disappears. Now, what Radionics devices do is they create a fluctuation, usually between two sound waves that basically flutter against each other. And the way it was described to me is it's like a fish's tail fin or something that is like fluttering against each other, and that creates what they call a phantom wave. It's like an unheard wave, but it does create I think a disruption in the whole environment around you. If you turn on, well, let me ask you, like when you've got your devices in, can you feel the actual like charged ions in the air in the room and shit? Like you walk in the room and it's like, whew.
No, you know, surprisingly, no. As much as I was thinking, because there's a lot of different just situations that occurred, you know, like where I'm like, if I can, will I be able to sleep at night, basically? Or if I'm anywhere inside of that location, like I need a small HUD. If I have 50 machines all lined up, beep, boop, bop, beep. And I think that the realities, it kind of helps other realities kind of layer over, in a sense, on you to where it's not this beam of radiation. But it is like, it's like a light manipulation, and that's the way I'm seeing it. So it's just a way to change that whole reality going on all around, but you're not actually, unless you have it, you know, on the output plate. Like I'm right now inside of a weight loss competition at the job I'm at, and so I just created my own sigil and then my intent, and then I just have that charged into myself, and I can honestly say I have changed since I started that. I've changed the way I've eaten, my long-term way on how I'm going to win the competition. I'm already down 10 pounds. I'm like, let's freaking go, you know? So just your own simple intention to fire it up. But I've never really had anything feel that, except for last night, but because I had the box set on myself to be productive all day yesterday, and it was a potent box. Because I have some that have more, you know, extra X, Y, and Z in it, and this is the freaking galactic whatever. And I was like, to keep myself productive all day. And I'm laying down, and it's like 4 hours, and I'm just like, dude, I don't know why I cannot fall asleep. I was like, oh, I left that one box on to keep me being productive. And I went over and turned it off, and I fell asleep. It was ridiculous.
No, that does seem to be the way it happens too. Is people get well, and the particular energy you get from it too is really interesting. Like when you're working on yourself, I don't know. It doesn't feel like it doesn't feel the same as if like there's a human pushing energy towards you. You know, it's not the same as like a blessing from a human. It's a completely different type of energy we're tapping into.
Oh, dude, definitely. So I had a friend that asked me, this is hilarious. This is just a couple of days ago. He said, dude, like I'm feeling sick. I'm feeling tired. Can you just give me like 5% of your energy? Just can you give me 5%? I was like, dude, the way you're asking me this is the most ridiculous, because he's not into magic at all. And he's like, dude, I just need energy. I need your energy. I was like, all right, I'll send you something if you really want energy. He's like, just give me some energy, please. So I just put his name on on top of my box and put it on from like midnight till about 3 o'clock the next day. And then I call him up and say, hey, man, so how'd your day go? He's like, dude, I have never had so much energy. I had a migraine. I've never had a migraine before. I had to go home from work, felt terrible, woke up, started cleaning my house. I just don't know, man. I felt terrible. What'd you do? And I just like, oh, well, I had a box on for a few hours. He's like, well, it works, but I'm happy it's off.
Yeah, that was only 5%, motherfucker.
Yeah. Ah, no! Freaking, and that's the thing too, man. Like, I do like. Now I will use blood, inside of a ritual, and I totally know that can be currency in the sense, or a bond or whatever. But it is nice knowing I can have a ritual. I can use my box. I'm just, I got that fire mindset. I'm like incongruent, use them both and go as absolutely ridiculous as you can. But, some people who aren't comfortable with doing things with blood or something, just radionics, and if someone's having a problem at their house, you could use, I'm not going to say use, but work with Azraludu to do a cleansing on their house with your radionics box, by having the map of their house, and then put that deity down. And if they're not comfortable with that, you could do Michael for them, or whatever the case is. And like, everyone can be empowered, and it's going to be stronger than a priest walking in there, starting a war and all hell breaking loose. It can be a more subtle and just taken care of, as well as I do feel like when it comes to intent, like when people have spiritual issues going on, or something's on them, I have two approach, which I always go in, I'm neutral. I just need to figure out what's going on. See if we can't make it cut a deal. So you're good, you'll leave, I'm good, we're all good. Or then it's like, then we take it up to the next level. We don't want to take it up to the next level, because I don't know how crazy it's going to get, but now the machines, the empire, the connections, like as you go along in your journey, you do feel more confident and fine taking on whatever you need to take on. But everyone just could be empowered to be able to help do cleansings, or just keeping your own energy right inside of your own household, not having that spirit of, I forget what that's called. Thank you. Spirit of contention, dude. That spirit causes poltergeist, and it just creates such a massive emotional problem. And I had to see that in my life for so many times, and like now I understand what was going on. But like when the bad thing, like at the perfect time to make it even shittier occurs, everyone has to realize, whether they believe it or not, everyone has psychic energy pulsating off of them. And so all our environment is a combination of all of it. So I just like these boxes because I feel like it gives people more power in their life, honestly, in every aspect like that.
Yeah. There's, no, for sure. It does. It's doing something where it's allowing anybody, absolutely anybody, access to magical power. Like, you don't have to train yourself for years in meditation and visualization and evocation. I mean, still do that. I think that's still, but you can pick up a box, and actually, it's almost like, all right. So when I was I joined the Marine Corps when I was 17, and I got called out pretty hardcore for all of my bad shooting mistakes. And drill instructor's like, your dad used to take you out shooting. I'm like, yeah, a couple times, my brother, and I've gone out shooting. And he's like, yeah, they all fucked you up. You're doing everything wrong. It's actually kind of better sometimes for people to approach new things completely fresh, without the preconceptions of what you should do in ritual and whatever. That literally people, you can just sit down and just like follow the directions, turn the dials, do your thing, and you're good. That there can almost be like, at least for myself, what I've found is that I've had to back off of trying too hard with radionics. Like, putting too much of my own self in. Like, just set it up. And I've gotten a very clear voice in my head being like, that's good enough. Now walk away. Okay.
No, that's,
and especially if it's on me, like if I'm working on myself, I think that's especially important, is like, this is for you to receive, not for you to give. So receive, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely an extension.
Yeah.
So you do want to learn about yourself, and working with these spirits help you learn about yourself and go through, you know, the good, the bad, empowerment, you know, also seeing your own shackles. And I think you have to have that. But for like a beginner to come into radionics and do something like that, or even a child to be able to, let's make it, you know, snow today, make it rain or whatever. And just like learning about these things is definitely, I think it's like a part of the toolkit. Like if there was like an academy, a school of magic, there would definitely be a radionics section. Yeah. And there's what I find fascinating is something negative. So like I eat meat. It's all good. I like eggs for free roam chickens because I feel like their energy goes into the food. So if a cow has a beautiful life and isn't killed sacredly or, you know, not shittily, then it's great for me. So there's chicken places and just slaughterhouses where they treat animals horrible. And there's nothing I can necessarily do right now in my life that I mentally could see that I could do other than drawing a map of that facility, like off of Google Maps, printing that off as the input. So all the blood sacrifice, all that energy that's instead of just being wasted, being able to be used towards a positive goal. And I've been able to use that inside of a foundation of the show I've been working on, that this is a consistent flow, just continually works with everything. And so much has been so beautiful that I've seen from that result of that, such as bad people that, you know, kind of like not going to be for the long run, that helpful for the team is off, new ideas, meeting new people, going to the right events, to be able to then once again have that mere coincidence situation happen where you get to meet the right people to know, like, in a couple of years when everything launches, this is going to be in the chamber, this, and this. And it's just really freaking mind-boggling. That's just something that simple, and then be able to use with your intention or spirit is just so like your realities can absolutely alter, but with great power does come great responsibility. You know, you don't want to put that on and put it on yourself and then leave the house and then, you know, having too much energy come in. Like, you have to know what you're taking in. You know, if you're putting on, I know JS has said this on his channel, he had a sick bull and he had that energy enter him, and then he got really sick. And it's like, holy shit, man. Like, is our light body so manipulative? And when Belial says you will change and evolve, it's like just the mere meeting or bumping into any of these vibrational frequencies just change our whole entire genetic sequence. And it's, god damn, dude. There's so much going on.
Yeah. You know, I first came across this whole idea of like of genetic, I don't know, like self-directed genetic evolution through magic, through a group I was with that was like strong into vampirism and necromancy and that kind of thing when I was like 19, 20, 21-ish. And a part of it was like sleeping for an extended period of time, sleeping every night in the cemetery over a specific grave that you've chosen, and letting yourself enter into this state of undeath. And the people that were initiating into this said very clearly, this is going to change your genetics. This is going to change who you are at the core level. And I was like, bullshit. I'm a young kid at that point. I'm like, this is just magic. I'm just trying to get some pussy and make some money, you know. But but sure enough, fucking walking down the road, and it's like, okay, I can see that. That's what Belial says too. Is because he's like, yeah, we're going to change you at the genetic level, and he shows me the human genome, and he shows me another a third column, because we got the 2 columns with the spirals. It shows me a third column being injected into that genetic makeup, and I was like, what the fuck? Okay, that's interesting. And I said, well, can this be tested? And he says, yeah, if you had a single scientist on your planet that would dare to do the test, yeah, this can be tested, but nobody would actually dare to do the test. And that in itself is interesting. That because let's maybe talk about this for a second. Radionics is considered pseudoscience, right? This is quackery. The scientific community has been completely captured. They're no longer actually looking for truth. They're no longer actually looking for facts. They're looking to rationalize a religion of science that is a false religion.
Yeah, I would agree with that completely. Us being told, you just are some physical being and there's no spiritual essence to you at all, I think is the absolute collapsing of the being right on the onset. You go to a school system, you get put in this, all right, you're a limited being, do this, now you have to work this job, and this is what's going to make you happy. Look at that black screen that's programming you, it's telling you to be happy. Oh, now you got one in your hand all the time, you don't have any social interaction. It's this program that definitely gets just kind of nailed into you. And I know walking this path when it comes to changing your genetics itself, I've seen myself change physically from where I was to where I am now. I mean, I lost my hair, and that was a part of the transformation. And just being able to then tap into your power more, it's like I see it as like the Spider-Man when it goes over in the old movies and it goes over his DNA, like all like kind of changes like a little bit of its form and color, and it's like us to be able to activate. I truly believe it to be us to be able to activate that hidden dormant power within, and it's like if we only are using it's like 15% of our brain or something. To be able to activate even that to the next level, because I think our spiritual capabilities also lie within our brain. Ooh. And I haven't gotten a ton of headaches, but I have with certain entities. Definitely, I had like a part of my head hurt, that's not typical. So I do think that it's unlocking different facets in your vision for sure.
That is crazy to think too. I hadn't thought about that, where spirituality might actually dwell within the brain, but it is crazy because most of your perceptual organs are coming from your head. Like, your hearing, your smell, your taste. These are all coming from right here. Like, and then your third eye, your pineal gland. You've got your reptilian brainstem. All of these things. I mean, let's even just look at that. Reptilian brainstem in the back, and fucking a pineal gland in the front. You've got an animal, a reptile animal in the background, and then in the front you've got a god. And that is how I see like humans, is we're this really crazy mix of an animal that's somehow been injected with this godlike essence.
Oh, absolutely, dude. When it comes down to the ancient Sumerians, and even before that time, before all this, I think there's definitely been cycles. There's been more than maybe there's just been one flood, but there's been different cycle of the human race here on this planet. And
have you looked into giants? Sorry, I'm going to interrupt you. Have you looked into giants?
Oh, dude, absolutely. That was one of the biggest things because all across the world, they have giants inside of their pictology, and there's the 6 fingers. I meant 4 fingers, 6 toes. And it's like the same type of thing. The Epic of Gilgamesh. Actually, recently they said that they found his tomb, and then raiders came on in, and I guess so-called raiders, and then FBI. It's like us going over to Iraq. I think it's not about the oil; it's about all the ancient artifacts that are over there.
What's crazy is in Iraq, the extreme destruction of ancient artifacts was nuts. And so, were those destroyed? Were those just said that they were destroyed? Whenever the government tells me that something's been destroyed, that means it's in a warehouse.
Yeah, no, definitely. Or under the Vatican. Because it's all one huge conglomerate. And that's what, it's mind-boggling. Because once you see that, I never understood why people had upside-down crosses. I never understood it, but now I get it. It's because everything's inverted. Everything is inverted. The reality in which you're shown, that is the false. There is a false light. They're controlling the narrative. And the things that the giants, when I talk about giants, demigods such as like Hercules. Like, what were they talking about way back then? Oh, they're just making up all these mythological beasts. Nah, that shit was around and a flood got rid of things. And if we could go down and excavate things and have industries that actually will go do things and go to Antarctica instead of the government saying, don't do this, don't do that, we'd be able to find so much more of our ancient past as well as knowing about the cycles to make sure our planet doesn't go through that same cycle again and really be able to achieve things. And that's what I feel like is hugely going on right now.
Here's the crazy thing that I've been thinking about is, what if that cycle is inescapable? Like, because this is what Plato said. This is where the whole theory of Atlantis came from. He goes, because you guys, you all think you're doing great things with the Senate and with the philosophers and all that. All of this is going to be wiped out. And that's when he actually started talking about Atlantis. He's like, this has happened before. There was this place Atlantis and da-da-da-da-da. Builds that story up, and he's like, they got destroyed too. And we're going to get destroyed. And then it's just a cycle that keeps going. And so that's actually a nutty thing to think about, is like, what, and mind you, I don't necessarily feel like we're at that part of the cycle of absolute destruction. I actually think we're in the middle of a transition, but I do wonder, like, is it escapable? That's what Musk is trying to do with getting to Mars, because he's looking at this going, fuck, we're stuck on one planet. That's a pretty shitty problem.
It's a liability at that case.
Yeah.
But I do believe 100% that we can break cycles, whether we have to get on ships and find a way. I just know if there is a will and a way and people behind that, and not just, it's like the people who are talking about it, it's kind of there was a silence, but as people like Elon and other people are, kind of all building up this golden age of individuals. And I do think that there's a fight going on between the two-headed eagle, which one side's a left, one side's a right, but it's both still the same wing. But I see that, I mean, obviously libertarian would be the way I'd like it to be, Let's just let me do what I want to do. Don't mess with me. I won't mess with you. We're all good, make everything legal. New golden age here. But I do feel like maybe it might be a little more capitalistic, but I do think that we can keep the human evolution if we work like the Beelzebub, that whole grand vision. If we find a way to be able to harmonize with our planet for energy, and we have that harmonization of our spirit with that spirit, and we can take care of the planet as well as be as technological advanced as possible, but with a limited imbalance. Dude, with this perfect balance, I know that this human race can do this, but there's just so much bullshit, and so much of Lucifer's light needs to just be beamed down into individuals' realities, realizing that things are upside down. And, with this whole alien thing's going on too right now, with more ships and all that, I don't know if I necessarily trust that the government said, hey, look at these people that landed. They're probably going to look like humans. They're probably just fucking humans that have been pulling the shots all the way. But there is definitely, like, the Infernal Empire. They definitely are incarnating, I feel like, upon this plane. And I feel that presence way more heavily now than I did before, and how that change and that fire and that desire, people changing, like, there's people now fighting for solar panels and against them here in my town, which is ridiculous. I'm like, I don't know the problem, but there is a change and a renewal. And I mean, that's kind of why I got on this long-term vision of the biggest thing I feel like I could do. It's be enthusiastic and push for the change. Here we go. There's the ship. And so I do see that, like, that generation right now, the younger ones, if they don't have it together within, like, the next 20 years, then we're going to be in some absolute no getting out of. And it's
and the lack of enthusiasm, the actual nihilism and depression I'm seeing in the younger generation is really concerning. That they're looking at this world going, there's nothing for us here. And that's rough. I think the enthusiasm, and I'll tell you what, this is, I think that's why I've really locked onto this concept of we're at war. We're in the middle of an invisible war. because that does give me that enthusiasm. That gives me that because I do feel like it is that critical. It is that critical that like our species is relying on cooperation that we just aren't doing. And yeah.
And that war aspect, that is a part of that fire for every single day and why you do what you do. You know, that purpose behind it. Because that's, and something with purpose that I definitely want to touch on is it's not just about me. It's not just about you. It's not just about that neighborhood. It's about everyone. You know, obviously, there's some things in my life I feel like I have to do because I don't think anyone else could do that. Everyone has their place in it. But if you see also that collective vision for all humanity, your family bloodline, and just like that care and that compassion, and that's something too, when people see the Black Magician, they're like, oh, all black, oh, look at him all heavy, X, Y, and Z. It's like, dude, I'm walking around the store, and I saw this older woman who was just shopping, and I thought she worked there, and I was like, man, I see older individuals, and they're still stuck at these jobs, and that's really sad. There's people outside who don't have any freaking anything. Now, if they don't apply themselves, that's not a whole nother story, but it's like there is a lot of pain in the world, and we have to give that compassion and love.
And you know, even the like, why don't they apply them? Why have so many people given up? Why, you know, dude, I've got this buddy that lives out in LA, and he runs an Uber Eats you know, thing that he goes and delivers, you know we all know what Uber Eats is. So he does that, and while he's driving around for the last few years, he's just been filming like, hey, you know, LA's, you know, da da da. During COVID, he's like, look, you know, we're all in masks and whatever. But then there was all of a sudden this really sharp, like right around, you know, COVID shutdowns or anything, there's this really sharp decline where it's like his filming, you can see it get darker and darker as far as more homeless people passed out on the sidewalks from drugs, people dead on the streets, and nobody's doing anything. And you know, and people do just walk by with these blinders on. I don't want to see this. I don't want to see this. And then people get mad at this dude for posting videos about it. And they're like, well, you shouldn't be filming the homeless people. And he's like, dude, look at what's going on. Actually, look at we're living in zombie land, and nobody wants to recognize it. And so that is the concerning thing, because this is all part of that internal crisis that I think is being forced on us. I got so much like hope and faith in humans, in individual humans. Like you give a person opportunity and encouragement and everything, most people are just going to blossom with it. But instead, everyone's getting really this jam down your throat. Everybody hates you. You know, if you're white, you're supposed to be feeling this way. If you're black, you're supposed to be feeling this way. If you're Asian, this way. If you're trans, if you're this and that. All of these divisions and once again, it's not just dividing us against each other; it's dividing us against ourselves. And I do think that I hate when people complain about shit that they're not going to do anything about. And so with this, I'm like, you know, at least for myself, I've found the tools that have worked for me, and that's, you know, everything magical, everything we're talking about today. These are the tools that have worked for me to get me that sense of purpose, to actually shift the world around me to align with that purpose. Yeah, most people aren't going to hail Satan for the change, you know.
No, and that's the thing too. There's to find that purpose and to find a thing. Like for me, going on a walk, and then as I'm in a forest, you know, or when I'm out in the freaking delivering and there's cornfields all around, seeing like the 3 ravens that'll be sitting there, or 3 crows, or the freaking. I'm thinking about like my long term, like, all right, in the next couple months I have to get this done, and all of a sudden a red-tailed hawk fly right in front of me, right there. And having such a divine all around, you know, and experiencing, you know, just the awareness of the things that give you that appreciation for the journey. And it's just, it's hard for people because not everyone has the same vision. Not everyone has the same psychic senses and gifts. And not everyone has had, you know, I know you've had to go through hell in your life. I know I've had to go through hell in my life. And getting through that, I know who I am. I'm not afraid to stand up for myself, and I think that's a lot of the problems. Lots of people, they're letting life push them around. They're letting this religion push them around. They're letting their family push them around, And it's like, once you're like no one's pushing me around, I'm going to do what the hell I want to do, then you can actually have authority in your life. And then that like gives you that empowerment. So it's like, okay, I'll work this job and then I can build this goal. But it would be hard, you know, for someone that's on the street to be like, oh, just get your stuff together. It's like, they're going to have to wonder, why the hell would I want to work that job? Why the hell would I do all this work to live inside of a small little shit box, to watch a black screen for a show to make me laugh, to give me hopefully purpose enough to do it again tomorrow, do it again tomorrow. It's like, what is going to give you that exhilaration? And that's what I found that I have loved about black magic. You know, it's given me exhilaration, purpose, and honestly, love. And not many people could understand that till they've experienced it, but it has given me so much love and compassion, because instead of having that self-hate and then that leaking out of me and anyone else has to deal with that, like, no. What can I change? What can I empower myself with? And also the power, you know, like I bought JS's deification ritual course, and I was able to do that. And being able to know, like, if things get to a harsh place for someone in my family, or someone is at that point, to say, I don't give a fuck, I'll go out to a forest, I'll do whatever the fucking it's gonna take to make the goal and to heal this person. That to me gives me so much love and so much more I can do. Because like losing my dad, it's a bit, he was a huge transformation, but I wasn't as compassionate, I feel like, in my life as I should have been. I wasn't as grateful as I should have been. And now it's like, I'm going to be more grateful and compassionate. And also I'm going to do everything in my power to help the people whom I fucking love. And yeah, it's like our it's ships. I'm not going to tell you, all right, now you're on my ship. It's like, no, now you get your own fucking ship and you set sail and you make that happen.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that is, you know, it's interesting. I've gotten I got a lot of clients who will come to me like in consultations, or I'll do some rituals for them or something, and they start calling me master, or they start thinking that we've got an apprentice mentor relationship going on. And I'm like, no. What you need to understand is this is the left-hand path. The only kind of initiation on the left-hand path is self-initiation. Now, what I can do is I can show you the self-initiations that have worked for me, and I can give you some suggestions on how to adapt those for yourself. I'm not initiating you into shit, motherfucker. I'm not your guru. I'm not your mentor. I'm just another guy on the journey. I've got my own ship. And so you got to build your own ship, and you got to sail. And that is the thing. The ship doesn't get given to you either. You got to build that ship from the ground up.
Exactly. I remember the first ritual I had for hire with you. One thing during the video, halfway into it, you're like, and we're doing this together. And like, I'm like, exactly. You're not doing anything for me. You're doing it with. And it's like, you go learn something and you train with someone and you walk away and you learn something and you take that toolbox, that tool, whatever it is you learn, and you're able to apply it in your own life. And that's something too. Our society likes to be spoon-fed and feel like we are born here, so we should be blessed with everything. Number one, you're incarnated, so you already won the jackpot there. All right, so that's number one. And number two, what do you want to do outside of just your own self? Like your own goals, you have to set. But what else are you gonna do for everything else? It's like, let's figure that out, build the relations we need to, and do that. But once again, it's that fog. It's that this, do that, and you got to build your own damn ship before. And don't let anyone tell you what to do.
Yeah. And you know, when we're talking, we're using some analogies here, but when we're talking about, or metaphors or whatever, but when we're talking about building your ship, by the way, like what I'm talking about, maybe I'll like to hear what you think about this whole concept. But I mean, the ship is it's both yourself and your movement forward, and that can be in your relationships, in your magic, in your own personal life, and you know, whatever it is that you're working on that you want to enhance and magnify in your life and in the world. But but it doesn't necessarily, because some people's ships might look a lot like mine, of like throwing your knowledge out into the world and doing videos and doing books. Maybe it doesn't though. But you got to figure that out for yourself. Is like, what's my bliss? You know, that's I think that's one of the big things I've locked into is I don't really care at this point if anybody buys my stuff. I don't care if you listen to me. I don't care if you like me or hate me. I'm just exposing my bliss to the world. This is the shit that really lights me up. I'm gonna share it just because that is the most blissful thing to do with my bliss is to share it.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, I was at this little music festival thing in outside of Las Vegas, just in the middle of the desert, and it was like a 4-day camp out, and there's music all 24 hours, and all the drugs and sex and all of that you can want. And it's probably about 2 days into it, and you've got to bring anything that you want to bring out to these kinds of parties. You've got to bring your own water, your own food, your own everything. And then you also bring stuff to give away. I like to do that too. Bring like either some alcohol to share with people, or art, little bracelets, necklaces, little swag shit. Just something to share and give to people that you see. Well, it's a hot summer day. It was like middle of August, and in Vegas, which is hot as fuck. And this dude comes walking through the desert, pulling a cooler, like an igloo cooler. What you got in the cooler, buddy? He's all, oh, did you want some ice cream? I'm all, what? Ice cream in the middle of the desert at this party? I'm gonna be honest with you, bro. I was tripping hard on acid at the moment too. And so I'm like, yeah, what could be better than ice cream? And what was better is it's not just ice cream, but ice cream sandwiches. Fucking, I love ice cream sandwiches. The chocolate fucking cakey. So he gives me one. I'm like, oh, awesome. Immediately, my first thought, who can I share this with? My first thought wasn't, let me go find a dark place. I can eat this fucking ice cream all by myself. No. I got a couple friends here. I bet I could split this into 4 pieces and we could all have one. Because for me, that's more enjoyable than just enjoying it myself. It's more enjoyable for me to split that and share it. And so just like with just expressing my bliss, if that's all I do for the rest of my life, I'm set. That's my purpose, is to understand and express my bliss.
It's that wind, that little subtle air that makes the fire continue to go and the ship to continue to set sail. Like that consistency is a little bit of dopamine, and that's when I'm able to have a conversation and help anyone else, with an issue, or maybe it's me delivering a package and literally just being a human, genuinely say, have a great day and smiling at someone. It's just a little bit, but it consistently, like in your life, the things that make you happy, at the end of the day, yes, I have my selfish needs. I can desire this and that, but when I'm out in the world, and that's what I've been wanting to work on even more, I want to be that beam, to be able to, like, even if it's something simple, going to a grocery store, making sure, even if I have to go a little bit more out of my way, hey, I'll grab that cart for you. Because I would do that in the past, but I feel like I had a different intention behind that. Like, it was like, I have to do these things, versus now I'm like, I just want to be that within the life. So then each thing is like more win for my sales. But I know that that's not necessarily for everybody, but I do find the treasures on the ship are definitely the memories that you make with people. The things blessed, like this is Zazel amulet. Like, this is so many things. I could get these Radionics boxes to be able to make friends, and they gave me information that has worked for them, and then books to read, and me to be able to get these things and apply them in my life. And it does come down to that, like, giving the pearl to the swine, if the people in your life don't accept those pearls, after a while, like, you can't just keep giving it to them, and you give them your flame, and then they use it for, 2 days, and then it's out, and then they're coming back calling, they're looking for it more. And, like, that can be very, you have to have that balance and be able to know when is it right to be able to do that sharing. And it's great, like, sharing any knowledge that you have, and, like, that's a part of your bliss. Like, you're giving that knowledge, but if someone's like, all right, master, what should I do next? It's like, dude, you're not understanding it. Like, take it, use it, but don't be vampiric.
By the way, that was Sisters of Mercy. I don't know if you ever listened to Sisters of Mercy, but they're fucking like great 80s band. Just like 80s. I would consider them to be like 80s goth music. They, of course, anybody that anybody considers to be goth, that goth, like there's no such thing as goth. I'm just gonna throw this out there. There is no such thing as goth, because anybody that you're like, oh yeah, you're goth, they're like, I'm not goth. Like people call me goth. I'm like, no, I was goth when I was 18. I'm not goth. I like black.
yeah, exactly. Well, that's the thing too. It's like, just because I'm wearing all black, there's an assumption. You know what I mean? It's like, dude, why does everyone just assume it? I just am what I am.
See, what's interesting to me is the. I think I hit a point where I understood that what I'm doing is I'm wearing a uniform, and it's a uniform that I've created, that I put on, whether it's one of my Balg T-shirts or even just this shirt here is like a shirt that I'll wear in ritual. I get dressed in the morning and I'm like, I got to put on my uniform. I'm going in, especially I'm going into war every day, and not that every day I feel like I'm being attacked. No, quite the opposite. Every day I'm on attack. Every day I'm on the offensive.
Oh, dude! Every time I'm walking out this door, there's those tarot cards that I got while I was in town with you.
Yeah.
So I'll do like, it's kind of like a couple path working where it's just a miniature, but I'll see which card has a representation which I want. And this one's Ace of Swords, which is for raw power and energy. And I put that on. So each time I walk in and out the door, it's like that energy over the door is reimbursed. And then I had one for death. Actually, that time I got really sick. When I said I did that Radionics experience with Raphael, I had that card up, and then I got really sick. So it was pretty uncoincidental, to say the least, you know? It's like, wow.
You actually gave me a fantastic idea, dude. I've got to get a deck of cards, charge them up, use them, and then I want to glue them to the wall around the door frame in order, so it's perfectly, you know, the entire tarot going across the door. So when you actually walk through the door, you're walking through the tarot.
That's awesome, dude. Yes, do that.
No, that's badass. But yeah, so speaking of energy and shit, right before we took our break, it sounded like you were about to jump into some vampirism stuff.
Yeah, I was definitely wondering, what is the greatest thing that you feel like has helped you grow learning recently? Because I know you've learned about some things about the vampiric path. And then also, do you find King Asmoday vampiric, or do you find him to be more like a different type of spirit, kind of more of a djinn type of energy, and just kind of those two things in particular?
Whew. All right, so I don't necessarily see Asmoday as vampiric, or any of the gatekeepers. There are demons that are definitely vampiric. But so here's where I think demons can be vampiric. They're not feeding off of your energy in that moment. They're feeding off of the energy of the thing that you do. So Asmoday sets you into motion. You start doing your thing. I mean, he maybe gives you this little, like Asmoday for me said, go stand in the sunlight in the rising sun. Put yourself in the path of the dragon. Dragons fly across as the sun rises. Dragons will fly into this world on the sunlight. And so right as dawn is breaking, put myself on the path of the dragon. Now I got that revelation, and I was like, that's mysterious as fuck. What am I going to do with that? But I start chasing after that, and I start winding myself up. That's generating a crazy amount of energy, and then I go out and do that ritual. It gives me all kinds of insights. I write the book. I do the video course. I put that out there. Other people start having effects with Asmodeus. That's a ton of energy. That's a whole ecosystem of energy that Asmodeus can now tap into. If Asmodeus wanted to just tap into me and suck my energy, he wouldn't be getting that much. I'm just one person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's really so there is an energy feeding. Everything is inside of this energy ecosystem, and so everything is feeding off of everything else. But what the demons have, I think, taught me and shown me through their example and through their words is cooperation. That you know, come together, put your energy together, and you're going to be a lot more. So
yeah, it's a constant continual of once you enter that grid, you know, and that's why the certain people are in your fleet or whatever the case may be, because that energy of all will continue to grow.
It's a symbiosis is the word I was looking for. It's a symbiosis. And this is one of the vampirism. Okay, so what are some of the things that I've learned with vampirism? First off, one of the crazy cool things that really just clicked, maybe like, actually, I can tell you exactly when it was. It was October of last year. October of last year, as I'm getting prepped for the Vampire Rite that MD and I did for everybody and that release and everything, I put myself into months of work that accumulated in October. Now, Zarathina came out and spent some time with me right then, and she was like, yeah, teach me this vampirism stuff. I'm like, all right, cool. One of the things I really started noticing as I'm teaching her in person, and we're having these experiences. So the first step is to like connect with the person. You just look at them. You can feel their energy. I like to look at them, look away, and see if I can track their movements across the room or wherever they're at just by feeling them, almost like tapping into just their energy field. As soon as I've got like a clear lock on the energy of that individual person, I'll shoot a tendril into them. Now, this whole tendril thing, I always just saw it as like little flickers of light that would pass between people, or like an extension of like a dark something that would pull the energy. Real breakthrough I think I had was coming to the understanding that that's a real mechanism, and like for me it feels like something that's biomechanical. Like straight out of H.R. Geiger, like there's like a half you know, reptilian and half machine tentacle coming out of me that goes and inserts itself in the other person. Now I don't just like make contact though. I try to go deep. So wherever that tentacle has found in that person, it'll usually be in a chakra or in a pulse or something like that. I'll actually push it deeper until I can feel like it's connecting with that person's heart. And then that's when I start pulling. And yeah, and so I guess the breakthrough I had was like in playing with it and playing with it and playing with it, that it crystallized, and I'm like, oh fuck, this isn't just me imagining that there's a tendril, that there is something actual happening here. And then the fact that a couple things that I noticed that were really cool, because Zarathina and I, we spent like a week just going out of the house, going out around town, going to like the county fair and just whatever stuff we could get around other people, and just feeding off of people left and right. Almost every time, as soon as you start feeding off that person, they look at you. That's what it kind of freaks. It freaks everybody out because they look at you like they know what you're up to, but they can't put their finger on it. Now, here's what most people do. Most vampires will look away and they're like, oh no, they caught me. No. When that person looks at you, they're giving you their full attention. They're giving you all of it. So they're just dumping it on you. So actually, in that moment, they look at you, lock eyes with them, and keep that eye contact for as long as you can, and then inhale deeply. So that's maybe the third thing that I really, really picked up from vampirism. It doesn't require me to do anything if I've done my job right. There are people that think they hate me that are just giving me their energy all the time because they're talking about me, thinking about me, obsessing about me, and then I don't have to do anything. In fact, the less that I do in those cases, the better. No contact, no response, nothing. Keep doing what you're doing because it's keeping me fucking empowered.
Wow, dude, that's using that wave of energy and flipping it just like it's a freaking kung fu move, dude, to flip it to be used on them.
Well, and I'll tell you what, so with the whole thing of vampirism, it's always been, like I started learning this stuff when I was 16 or 17. I started looking into the Temple of the Vampire stuff and, you know, whatever little things I could pick up in the early days of the internet, and started using those, but it's always just been a tool in my toolbox. And honestly, it was a tool that I guess I didn't care for too much because I always saw it as just being a one-way connection, and I'm just trying to feed off of other people to help myself. And that just, I don't know. But then when I started realizing, wait a minute, no, there are mechanics here. That's the lowest level of vampirism. Feeding off of another person for your own energy, that's the lowest level of vampirism. The next level is letting people just throw their energy at you. The next level is to start doing this with the deities you work with. So you can have a free, do this. I'm gonna just throw this out to everybody. Do this with Azazel. He is totally up for this game. Call him and say, hey, can we feed off of each other for a minute? I'll take from you and you can take from me, and just pass back and forth. Inhale, and Azazel will open the doors and actually help you out with this mechanism and developing this. And then the next stage of it, in my opinion, is feeding off of life itself. Like just stand. I was out in the backyard. So we've had a bunch of snow. It's been really crazy storms. My trash can lid blew open and blew trash all over my yard, right? So I'm out there the other day picking up trash. I should have been hating life, but I wasn't. I actually had this is like just a couple days ago. It was a really great feeling. And I just inhaled like the sunlight and the air and the dust beneath me and all the animals and the trees and the life of everything and even the life inside myself. I was able to feed off of it and multiply it and it is. So once you got like the vampiric thing where you can feed off of something, then my suggestion is to learn how to feed off of everything.
Well, that's what I'm thinking about when you put an offering up on your altar for a spirit, how much quicker that item dissolves. And I actually wasn't even thinking, like, does that add to the potency? And of course it does, because it's energy being pulled into the working, and it makes so much more sense. But damn, I don't even know where I was going with that, other than that totally all made sense. That was actually a question, and just all these ideas together. What does fascinate me, though, definitely about the vampiric, for all those levels, is badass. But when you say that tentacle, when working with Lugala Beta Burr, the armor he places on you can turn into a tentacle. And I think it's almost a shell that goes around your astral tentacle, because I've been just goofing around like at the gym. I'm like, all right, let's see if I get their attention. And then I'm just working out and I shut my eyes and then I'm like that tentacle. And honestly, I play the game The Darkness too, so anyone can talk all the shit they want. But that is the exact situation when their little tentacle thing goes on the ground and it climbs up the wall. I feel like is a part, and I would be getting people's attention, but I haven't done anything with that vampirism, but that eye contact thing is probably the funniest thing I've ever heard. And I definitely, next time I go out, I'm going to be doing that big time.
Well, it is interesting how we all seem to be very uncomfortable with our own power. You know, that because I started noticing this. So the guy that was teaching me voodoo, Dr. DePrince, gave me this little thing. When you're looking at somebody, you're talking to them, if you want to manipulate, you want to full on insert a thought into somebody's head, here's the little technique he gave me. Imagine, as I'm talking to him, in the background, you know, you've got to kind of divide your mind so you can still have a conversation and do something internal that's separate. This is actually hard for a lot of people to split their attention like that, but it gets easy as you work on it. And so while you're having the conversation, in the background, imagine that you have right side up crescent moons in your eyes. And so inside your eyes, you have a crescent moon that's arched, you know, up and whatever, you know. And then imagine that the person that you're trying to manipulate has inverted. It's inverted. So yours is like a cup pouring down. Theirs is like a cup receiving. And so once you make that contact, then you look into their eyes and you pass a beam between the moons. And so they've got moons in their eyes, I've got moons in my eyes. Connect those beams of moons, and then think the exact thing that you want to push into that person. So I did this. I had this is like 2010, I think, maybe 2011. Dude, I got screwed on overdraft charges at my bank. You know, that's when I was still working the daily job. My cabinet shop was going under, and so they weren't paying us for a while. So my bank got overdrafted and just ba-ding, every single, and it wasn't with this particular bank, it wasn't every single charge. It was every single charge every single day. So,
oh my God.
Yeah, so it was 100. I went to go deposit my paycheck after that, and I was like, yeah, cool, all right, we're gonna. And she's like, yeah, your paycheck's not gonna cover the fees. I'm like, my paycheck is not gonna cover even just the fees. So so I sit down with this lady and kind of get myself into a calm state. And while she's explaining to me bank policy and blah 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 blah, I start doing the moon thing and looking in her eyes. And my first instinct was like, don't look her directly in the eye. You know, look away, look down, whatever. But it's like, no. Look her in the eyes, just not even with authority, just being me and just looking into somebody's eyes. And then specifically, I inserted the command of dismiss all of these charges. And then I actually doubled down and said the exact words that I was pushing to her in her mind. I said out loud, I said, is there any way that you can, as a matter of customer service, waive these charges, and I will make sure to never do this again. And she was like, it's against bank policy, but this one time, I'm going to put a note in the system. I'm going to put a note in the system that you can't do this again. But this one time, we will waive all these charges. And it was hundreds of dollars of charges, and it was. She went from no, we can't do this. You're screwed. You know, you're going to get evicted from your home to yeah, no problem. Like within a couple seconds.
Wow.
I don't know where I was going with that.
No, that's freaking incredible. I mean, I see it on the scatter coming down. It's doing it right now. Ding, 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 ding. But yeah. Oh, something. Oh, dude, badass about. I don't know if you're ever gonna have these out on sale or whatever the case may be.
What you got?
But dude, this thing right here, bro. I mean, the colors. I please explain to them how incredible these things are.
So okay, so here's what's going on with this that you're seeing. This is an alchemite triangle. Now, I started working with Saint Germain. When I started getting really serious about radionics, I was like, there's some kind of overlap here between radionics and alchemy, and I wasn't really sure what it was. So hit up Saint Germain, and he's like, oh yeah, he goes, you're making organite, which is epoxy resin with usually just metal flakes. Some people put quartz. That's actually not at all what was recommended by the original. What was his name? Hans Welz. I can't remember his full name now. Dang it. But Welz is the one who actually came up with the formula for organite, and he's like, no crystals are needed, because people put whatever, but just metal flakes and epoxy resin is all that's really needed, and then people will add just different things. But Saint Germain says, okay, so what are the three elements of alchemy? And I'm like, well, that's salt, sulfur, and mercury. And he says, okay, so make your alchemite with that. And I was like, okay, make your organite with that. Call it alchemite, because this is actually alchemy that's put into this material form. So got myself some sulfur, got myself some. So the mercury, by the way, mercury is poisonous or toxic or whatever. So dangerous to handle, hard to get your hands on. But gallium is a substitute that works really well. Gallium is it's basically what alchemists would have called quicksilver. It goes from it looks just like mercury, goes from a solid to a liquid at I think like 80 degrees or 85 degrees or something like that. So I'll just put it in some hot water, boil some water, put these vials of this gallium that's it is a hard metal until I put it in the water, then it melts, pour it out into the alchemite, and then just salt. So and then copper on top of that. So that's actually what that is. I'll just give away the formula for free. So you put those three elements in together for that, and so that, and then also the triangle. So here's one of the big things that I started seeing happen. I bought so many radionics devices, and I busted into every device I get, I break into it. Whether it's a computer, a motorcycle, or radionics, I got to take it apart and see how it works. So I bust these boxes open, and so many of them have literally nothing inside. Literally, it's just dials on a box. And so I started realizing the reason that these are in boxes is to hide what's inside or what's not inside. It's to conceal it and to give it, but if there's nothing inside, what are you concealing? You're concealing your lie. You're concealing the fact that you don't got shit inside there. And so I guess my answer to that was here, the whole technology, there's no box, but the actual technology is everything that you're holding. And so in the holes that you can see in the corners there, you just put your potentiometers into there. Yeah, put your potentiometers into those, and the potentiometer is a fancy word for dials, and hook those. I'm going to suggest to do a little soldering and actually create a solid connection between the two leads on your potentiometers onto the alchemite itself, and that's gonna do wonders. So yeah, but as far as whether I'm gonna manufacture it, no. Here's what I've realized, dude. I did so many batches, so many batches of those, and I fucked so many of them up, and I realized like I'm not a manufacturer. Like I've worked in manufacturing plants. This is just not what I'm great at. And so at some point, maybe if I can find somebody that'll help me just manufacture them and do a professional job, I'm just not doing a good enough job of manufacturing those to feel good about asking people for money for them, you know? Like honestly, it's cool technology. I'm so glad that I created it and throw it out there. I've got probably about a half a dozen of those triangles left that I might just give out to friends. But as far as selling them at this point, like I said, I don't feel good enough about the work about the quality of the work that I'm able to output to ask for money for them.
You know, I totally get that too.
So instead, what I want to do with you and with anybody else we can get in on this project for this Radionics spellbook, just give away the information. Here's how you make it. Here's how you use it. Here's how you do it. Rather than selling the devices, sell the information so everybody can make the device. Here's the crazy thing. Let's go to the next level with Radionics. Here's the crazy thing I'm seeing. There are a lot of people out there that are experimenting with Radionics right now and creating their own devices. Tethering these devices together and like I think you were talking about doing that, like sitting in a circle of different Radionics devices.
Oh yeah. So
we're all finding like these weird applications and different ways of like creating unique devices. I know one guy that's creating Radionics wands, the just a handheld wand.
I got that. I have one of those.
Hell yeah. Was that from a cereal?
No, it wasn't from cereal. It was from Dr. Mulder. It's or Lawless Metaphysics.
Oh, okay.
Shit, I wish I had it with me. But dude, that thing is so funny to just use out on the road. Someone's like in your way, you just being that get up out of the way, and then they'll go out of the way. I mean, nothing's crazy, but I will tell you this much: if you use that wand or anyone's wand in conjunction with the vampiric current, dude, you talk about pull attention and then right away, man. That's hardcore.
Yeah. But here's what I think is happening. Because the only way I've been able to describe what I've been doing with Radionics is I've been describing it as I'm receiving blueprints from the future, because that's the only thing that makes sense to me. Now, it's not just me receiving blueprints. Other people are receiving blueprints that are completely different. Like I said, there's one lady that's building an entire room that you walk into the room, and the whole room is a device. And so, here's what I think. At some point in the future, we're all going to get together and we're going to link all of our devices together. And I don't know what happens at that point, but I mean, something big. I do think this is like, because here's what's happened with, whether you're talking about that triangle or JS's box or my device over here, or whatever it is, it's generating a vortex. This is all happening through vortices. And so as that vortex starts to spin and open, we're opening portals. This is literal portal technology. And so having these portals, like I said, we can all get together and link our devices together and figure out how this all, like the way that I'm seeing it, we're gonna have to like rent out a warehouse that they usually have raves or something in, and get together with a bunch of people and just like do this, just link our devices together, power them up, and see what the hell happens. Everybody on your device, start turning your dials.
Yeah, and you have different sigils inside of the place, so where when the dance is going on, you have that energy pumping on it through. That's definitely something after we're live here. I mean, on the recording, we'll definitely talk about. There's actually something I was thinking about, but I had to run it by you. But yeah, with this machine, I mean, this machine in particular, like I have ones that have electricity that flow into them, and then this one doesn't have anything flowing into them, but it has built, why I asked the question about King Asmoday is I had his assistants pulling life force out of an energy source and bringing life to this actual triangle radionic device itself. And then I was working with, we did, when I was over there, we did the 9 demonic gatekeepers over it. And then I got home and I started doing different other spirits like Antaratu. And it was like that deity that was created was this construct that the only way I could say it is like a Cortana or like a suit. It's like a babe, but it's a suit, or Samus or whatever, but it's like a suit. And then when you work with a spirit can put on that suit. Or what's really crazy was, every time I'd work with this triangle, and I call her, I don't give a shit, I'd say Andromeda, because I have a connection to that star system. I just love it so much. And so she's like Andromeda, and I'm having like this gnosis of talking to King Asmoday, and he says she's a cyber demon. And I was like, okay, that's different. I'll just, whatever. And so I get on the game Cyberpunk, and I do some random mission I've never done before. And the first thing I say is, yes, now there's a cyber demon in the system. And I was, at that point, all the gnosis about what this was and how this is like a device as well as an entity, and then other entities can work with that. It's just, once again, another technology that once everyone has all their technologies together, man, if the weather's being changed by just a normal box and not some massive ritual, and I'm going to definitely work with Furfur because he works with weather, and I'm wondering him with conjunction with it. Shout out Furfur. What would come about with that? So, but dude, if I'm doing that and it takes me 5 minutes and I'm like, just visualize, all right, move on and done. Dude, think if 25 people, 100 people, hands conjoined all together. And that's what I'm thinking about, like, when it comes to this future technology, exactly what you're saying. This is the future, but all time is present on the other side. So we're just being able to tap into this future flow and our future selves. And I feel like as we find our divinity within ourselves, when we see ourselves astrally, we see all the facets of which we are spiritually and all that. And as you become better and be more tapped into that energy, you do see the long term, and it's just like that long term, short term goal. But tapping into that and being able to use that technology now in a reality, and that's exactly what it is. It's future tech that we've been blessed by spirits, and I wonder if there's a gateway technology that they had over there in Iraq, and then because I heard a few stories along those lines.
There's some theories that the whole Stargate thing is not so far off.
Yeah, exactly, dude.
Now let me jump in though with these technologies. All right, so Satan told me once. Well, he asked me. He goes, he says, you know why I? How did he start? He says, you know why I gave you cell phones, so you could understand, so you could get the experience of speaking to somebody at a distance, so that way you know it's possible. So that way you can do it without the phone. He goes, you know why I gave you planes? He's also, so that way you could understand that you can fly and that you can go to another location instantly, almost instantly, and he says, so it was to give you that belief and that understanding. So that way, one day you won't need planes. You'll just fly. You'll just transport. And so he kept going through this, and he didn't just like give me a couple examples. He just kept going, like naming just different technological devices that have improved our lives and everything. He's like, you know why I gave this to you? Like, that's, first off, that statement alone. You know why I, Satan, have given you, mankind, these technologies? Well, fuck, that already blows my mind. But why? So that way you don't need the technology. This is a training wheel that we have that's getting us somewhere else. So like with that. There's a specific feeling that you get when you're turning the dials on a radionics device. I just call it like a stop command. It's like an internal stop command. It's like there's something that says stop, and it can freeze your whole body. If you're doing a stick pad, you'll actually find that your fingers will just freeze to the stick pad. You start to identify what that feels like inside yourself when the dial is set correctly. And you can feel it, and if you turn it a little bit the wrong way, you can feel that it's not right. And so with that, once you have that internal feeling of what each dial feels like, so I carry 3 dials with me all the time in my mind. something's not going the way I want it to, start turning the dials in my mind. And then, you know, and whether that's like I don't like the weather, or this person's, you know, in my way in traffic, or whatever, I don't like the situation. Okay, start turning dials, and start with the left, then the right, and then the way that I set my dial systems up, by the way, it's kind of hokey, but it works for me. Right hand path, left hand path, and then balance. And so it's like
that's pretty great.
Yeah, it's good or evil, or and the right and left hand path, those, for me, the definitions of what that means changes for every single working I do. But it's like sometimes, you know, I need a little bit more evil and just a little bit of good, you know, and then balance them out in the center. And so I'll do that all the time, and I'll feel that exact same feeling as I'm imagining myself turning those dials. I'll imagine that, I'll create that same feeling of that lock when it locks into the right place. There is like a very clear feeling to it.
Yeah. Hey, when I'm dialing in the machines, once you have that intent visualized, and you do hit that bing with it, and you get all the dials with the bing and tapped in, and then you've had that visualization, it's like, you know, when you let go, that your intent was locked in perfectly, and now that sonar beam is going consistently, and you can move on. You can go do whatever you need to get done. And that's what I have find to be probably my favorite part of the whole entire thing, which is why I just keep doing more workings, because I used to put more time into it. And, you know, I still will for certain ones, but dude, sometimes it's like, all right, what can I get done really quick? You know, I kind of have that hasty mentality. I have to get this done. All right, let's get out the door. And it's just like, okay, let's just keep empowering this sigil. All right, I'm going to do that for 2 days, and then I'm going to move that off from there. And it's like an effortless, but there always is, you know, the price of everything that you do.
Yeah. I was going to ask you that about weather manipulation. If you make it sunny one day, does it have a kick, what do you call that, like a whiplash, where the next day it's super stormy? Like
no. So what I've been finding with every time, so we were supposed to have this one snowstorm, we get 6 inches, and I was like, dude, F that again. So I just put, you know, clear sky, we're fine. We didn't get any snow, but everything went above us. And so instead of them only getting 6 inches, they got 12. So I think the accumulation of where the energy goes, it's more dispersed, it's not destroyed.
No, I've seen that with just cloud bursting. Like,
yeah,
I look up in the sky, and just to throw down some techniques for people. This is stuff I started teaching my daughter when she was little, and she does it like, she can look at it and just, she'll get it together with her friends. She'll be like, see that cloud? And they'll watch it. They'll be like, yeah, what about it? And it'll just disappear right as they're watching it. But so what you got to do is you look at the sky and pick a cloud. For this, it's helpful if it's not a very cloudy day, but I mean, I've done it on cloudy days for sure. If you got nothing but overcast, this is harder. What you have to do is you have to find a cloud and see the sky without that cloud. Don't necessarily see the cloud vanishing. Don't necessarily see reality as if that cloud did not exist at all. And then what you start seeing is usually either the edges thin or the center thin. It's one of the two. And then it just disperses. But then the town like 45 minutes away from me, Cedar City, every time I do that, they get storms, because like those clouds, they'll disperse from here, but that moisture is still in the air. That's all still in the air, and so that's got to go somewhere. So, like you said, the storm when you were doing your
Spartan race,
Trojan, what's it called?
Spartan race.
Spartan. Okay. Yeah. Trojan race is something completely different.
I'll let you guys know about that in the after hours.
But yeah, your Spartan race, the storm cleared just around you. You know, but that storm is still there, and so you can displace and move things, but it is like there are still. It's interesting because it's like there are still elements, and we have to work with those elements. I think this is actually something, dude. This is something an alchemist told me. I had a buddy that's a Freemason get hold of me like a few years ago. He's like, hey, hit me up. We're gonna go to this place for lunch. I'm gonna have some friends there. And it was just like last minute. So I'm like, all right, cool, boom. I bounce. I go to this place, and he's got 2 of his Freemason buddies that are alchemists, full on full on out. I mean, you know, one of them, they're brothers, and one of them does a lot more chemical experiments of extracting the spirit essences from all the from plants and minerals and stuff like that. The other one does the more spiritual side. I show up in a Become a Living God t-shirt, and they weren't at all familiar with me or who or what I do or whatever. Just my buddy was just making an introduction. So the dude's all, Peter, he's all, dude, an older brother, he's like, you know, Become a Living God. How much do you actually like stand behind that? I'm like, dude, it's everything. This is what it is. And he goes, the problem is, if you get thrown into fire, you're gonna get burned. You get thrown into water, you'll drown. You get buried under the earth, you're gonna suffocate. Thrown out of the plane, you're gonna die. You know that you are subject to all of the elements, and so these 5 elements of existence, you know, spirit, fire, water, earth, and air, that these actually bind everything on this planet, including you. So if you're really a living God and you want to become a living God, you've got to get into complete harmony with these elements to the point that you get thrown into fire and you do not burn. You get thrown into water and you do not drown. And I was like, wow, that the elements themselves will respect you because you respect them.
Oh, dude, absolutely. That's tapped in. That's some high knowledge right there.
For sure.
And that is like the only way you can master and go through, you know, the refinement is going through the refinement, and then you'll just be what is left, you know, what is going to be left of you, what's being chipped away from you, and are you okay and comfortable with that, and having that change. Dude, that's some pretty badass shit. I mean, if you're not working with, you know, your environment, I mean, disease, you know, that builds up. And that's why a part on the path, you always have to have your way about keeping those energy patterns and grids open. Otherwise, it's going to be hard to be working congruent with all the elements going around. And the elements and ingredients, I mean, it's cool. They both, one was more of the physical of taking the components, you know, that's doing a certain ritual, maybe cinnamon to get something fired up or whatever, and adding that into a ritual, as well as knowing the other aspect, which is the spiritual side. And that was something that lots of people, when I would say I'm the alchemist, it'd be some friends can understand. Other ones were like, well, what are you talking about? Yeah. What's chemistry? Where's your chemistry degree? And I'm like, oh boy, here we go. We're talking about spiritual alchemy here. But, you know, at the end of the day, we all do have that lead, and how you going to transmute that into your goal to be able to add upon to get your sales going, you know, in your everyday life of changing what needs to be changed instead of being so.
And one crazy thing is Abaddon gave me the opposite suggestion. He actually said, what you want to do is you want to do that, change all of your lead into gold until you are at one with the divine, the source of all things has accepted you into its heart, and this is where you honestly start to lose your own, in my opinion, you lose your own free will, you start to lose your identity. This is once you've made that connection, you've been reabsorbed into the source, flip it upside down and turn all that lead into gold, or all that gold into lead. Now what's going to happen then is you fall like a lead ball out of the heavens and back to earth. He's like, this is actually how you, and you know, this is like a spiritual thing, not necessarily like the emotional gold to lead or whatever, or all the baggage that's assumed with that, but you do this flip of making, maybe embracing all of your darkness, embracing your physicality, embracing this reality, because I think that the spiritual urge is to do the opposite. This world's nothing. It's all about the next life. It's all about the higher heavens, and to flip that on its side and go, you know what? It's great here being in source, but I prefer the fucked up, chaotic, diseased world that I came from.
Yeah, well, and this is the world where we can make the most change. It's just like the statements in the Bible. How did the seas get parted? Why did the ark get made? Or whatever the case may be. Us humans are the ones that are actually making the movement and change. The spirit world is like a water world all around, where there's influence and energy and all that. But at the end of the day, here's where it all does come down. And, you know, that's the whole thing about, are we stuck in a reincarnation, X, Y, and Z? I think definitely I've been here in many different lives, but I know damn well that if I want to be freaking out, I'm going to get out. And that's why there's certain, when it comes to me working with spirits and all that, I've now learned, because everyone needs to understand that there's silver line. Like, not people are going to go out in the forest and do, you know, whatever it takes, you know, like a chicken or whatever, to be able to save someone from cancer. But I'll do packs, but everyone, you have to understand, your soul is, you can't even sell that in the first place. But anything to say, in the afterlife, I'm going to do X amount of years, do this and that. No, you could just, if you come at that approach, you're coming as a beggar, and you have to be a king talking with kings, and you can't come at that framework of mind, you know. So definitely just being able to stay within that accord or whatever the case. And I did have a question about